This week, I'm really excited to discuss the Amazing Digital Circus's latest episode with episode 6. As last time when I discussed episode 5, it was a really chill vibe, and I really wanted more of that, and I kind of got what I wanted, but this episode gives the characters guns. It's actually a really cool way to both pair off the characters so that way we could have more one-on-one time, but it also just gives a wacky excuse to have some fun, eh? But what I really appreciated about this episode is the character interactions, specifically between Kinger and Ragatha and Pomni and Jax, with Kinger, just like he did with Pomni, being a very good support for Ragatha at a certain point in the episode. I won't give too much away for spoilers, so you go out of your way to watch it, but the main thing I want to discuss is the overarching theme of Pomni and Jax through the episode. When they initially get paired off, they are talking to one another, and eventually Jax asks Pomni why she takes everything so seriously. And this eventually leads to Pomni kind of giving into the more wackier side of the circus itself, and I actually really liked this, but I did feel like Pomni was just trying to, relate with Jax and go out of her way to do something that he would like. And I really liked their dynamic through the episode, but it was the conflict they came into at the end of the episode which was really interesting because, and this will be a spoiler warning for what happens in the episode, Pomni addresses the facts that Jax is just an asshole. He's just kind of a bad person, and he treats everybody like crap. And she even goes as far as to say that Jax is the reason why everybody else abstracted. And this obviously set him off and made the rest of the episode pretty awkward, and even to the point where it seemed like Jax was going to go off the rails there. But the ending of the episode was obviously the favorite character awards, which I thought was a pretty fun way to cap off the episode, especially with all the more serious tones throughout the episode, because literally this whole episode, I felt my heart in my stomach, and I felt so anxious during the moments where there was no music. It was just a long pause with two characters, and it is what I've been hoping for this show since I started watching it. To have these in-depth conversations about connection and value and valuing yourself, valuing others, and committing yourself to a community or being a part of something bigger than yourself. It's a really beautiful story that Gooseworks is working through, and at least my hope is that we'll see another 6 episodes, but it does feel like we are reaching kind of not necessarily a climax, but we're getting to a big moment in the show because it feels like the quality is getting better, the episodes are getting longer, and it just seems like it has been building up. We get threads for characters that are able to build on in the next couple episodes, and I feel like there's going to be a big conflict between Ragatha and Jax, but I just hope Pomni and Ragatha can talk amongst themselves before Jax. Well, I won't give that away, but it just feels like the more people connect one another within the circus, the more they stay sane. And it feels like Jax, being the only one who actively separates himself from group activity and goes alone and likes being alone, I really am worried for Jax going forward, and he may be the next one to abstract. But this was definitely a more serious tone episode with obviously some good comedy and good bits spread throughout. I really did appreciate all the work that went into this episode. I was super excited to get into it, and it was just a really pleasant time to watch all these characters talk amongst themselves and also just have some wacky gun violence. Now, I do want to add that the best part of this episode from a character writing perspective was the dynamics of humanity between all the characters, between Kinger and Ragatha being able to have a really nice and heartfelt moment about taking care of yourself and maintaining your humanity. Zubul and Gangle were able to strengthen their bond as a duo, and Pomni and Jax had a really interesting conversation about archetypes, and to me that just feels like they're leaning more into abandoning their humanity. But yeah, that's pretty much everything I have to discuss about the Amazing Digital Circus episode 6. Everybody just gets guns. It's kind of awesome. But the one thing I do want to mention, and my personal favorite moment of the episode, is when Gangle got her hands on a Tommy gun. I love the Tommy gun. It's literally my favorite gun in all of history and in fictionalized first-person shooter games. And I'm really happy that it got an inclusion in this episode. But yeah, again, that's pretty much everything I have to discuss regarding this episode. But at this point, I think it's time for me to send it back to me and my friends as we continue our discussion on K-pop Demon Hunters.